I've been watching a lot of football lately,
Foosball?
and I've been watching a lot of football with my wifey Pooh lately, and I forgot how long she's been watching football with me, but she understands it pretty damn good nowadays. You know, like a lot of times, chicks for some reason have a tough time with the kicking game. I'm not sure why.
Kicking?
The kicking game, yeah. There's like the kicking thing never makes any sense to them. It's fourth down and they kick the ball and they don't understand why the guy like sometimes catches it, sometimes he doesn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
Like on like a punt, you know, and then like a kickoff has different rules. Like if you don't catch a kickoff and the guy jumps on it in the end zone, it's a touchdown. So it's weird because once a kickoff goes past 10 yards, it's a live ball. But on a punt, you can kick it as far as you want as long as it didn't touch anybody. Then it's a dead ball for the team that kicked it. It's a turnover on downs, kind of regardless, right? Like the team doesn't even have to they don't even have to attempt to catch it if they don't want to ever. And that part used to confuse her all the time, but now she gets it and she's like kind of cheering at the right times and different things like that. Yeah, you can just bring the phone over here, Joey. It's fine. Thanks, Joe Dog. Say hi to everybody, Joey.
Hi, everybody.
That was Joey popping in, dropping off the gym phone. I'm going to go live on IG for a minute on here. But anyway, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's been cool. It's been cool watching football with the wifey. And this football season's been amazing. I know people are complaining about the rules. The, roughing the passer and all this different stuff is getting called. And the rules have changed, but, these players got to be protected. I know a lot of people are ill and not doing well, years later from their football career because of the types of hits they've taken. Some people will say, hey, choose a different profession. Some people are a little bit more, heartless about it. And other people say, yeah, I think some of the changes are good. It's just going to take time, for all this to kind of sink in and for all of it to kind of make sense. And they're definitely going overboard with all the penalties called. But it's been a lot of fun last night. And they lost the ball. Like they went for it on fourth down. And it was like, that's the end of the game. They went for it. They didn't progress any further. And Baltimore then had the ball or whatever it was. And that like pretty much that was that. Baltimore just had to like kill the ball or kill the time rather. And so my wife's like, why doesn't Pittsburgh just do an onside kick? I'm like, I was like, well, they don't have possession of the ball anymore for one. Number two, Baltimore didn't score, and number three, it's not like the end of the half, or the beginning of the game. Those are only the times that you have an opportunity to do an onside kick because that's the only time you would do a kickoff.
Yeah.
So I just when I thought she had like a real handle of it, she yells out, she's like, "Why did they just do an onside kick?" I think at that point she was just, pulling straws at that point, trying to figure out how they could come back, I guess.
That's definitely a chick thing to say, though. Like, why don't they just... That's pretty good.
Or what about, like, your grandma when you used to watch football? She'd be like, why don't they just run around the end? Why do they keep running into each other? They keep running up the middle. It's all clogged up. They just run around the sides,
Yeah, the armchair coaches, I think that's what they call them.
Yeah, armchair quarterback.
Quarterback, yeah, there you go. I remember I used to be so into it and so on point that whenever there'd be a flag was thrown or whatever, my dad would look at me and be like, "What did they call?" And I would get it right almost every single time, just based on like seeing where the flag was thrown or like the motions that the ref was doing. They did pretty good, But now watching it just pisses me off.
I think I'm on MB Slingshot because I couldn't figure out how to go live on the other one, but that's okay. We'll just rock it right here.
Better.
What's the difference, right?
It's all live?
It's all live. We're live on Facebook. You guys can throw in your questions, but we got a topic for today that we're going to tackle as well. Whoops, that's the wrong way. That's facing the other direction.
Can't have that.
There we go. And we're going to tackle some things today. First thing I want to talk about is we got this 12-week thing that we're going to go through. Today was actually starting 12 weeks until Christmas. And I know this time of year what happens. You get the Halloween candy. I'll describe what happens in my house, and you guys tell me if it's different at yours or not. My wife buys a bunch of Halloween candy, like ridiculous amounts of it. No one ever comes to our house, by the way. No one ever comes to our house for candy. It's very rare. I mean, Maybe we get 20 kids that come by and we give out some candy, but that's about it. She buys this, a couple enormous bags from Costco of candy. And she like tucks it away. It's pretty hidden for a while. Like you can't really see it. I know that she probably bought some, but I don't know where it is. I won't see it until it gets closer to Halloween. And then all of a sudden, a bag will appear. I'll reach in the pantry for some supplements or something, and a bag will appear. And I'll be like, oh, there's a bag. And I'll be like, fuck, it's not even open yet. I don't want to be the first one to open it. And I'll look at it again the next night and the next night, and it's still not open. And then finally, it's open, and the floodgates are open. And next thing you know, every morning when I wake up the next day, for some reason, there's a bunch of wrappers of the candy, of said candy, in the garbage, every morning. And either me or my kids or my wife or a combination of all of us just went to town on it. And that's when the floodgates start to open up. The floodgates start to open up in October, and then it goes November. We got Thanksgiving, and then December we got Christmas. And we have a lot of there's like a lot of holiday parties that people go to. There's a lot of family stuff. There's a lot of vacation. That fourth quarter, the last part of the year, seems like a race to the new year to try to see who can gain the most amount of weight. Everyone's just packing on those LBs, and I wanted to do something different this year. So you'll be seeing a lot of this coming up on my Instagram, on YouTube, on this podcast. We're going to be doing a 12-week. I'm not going to call it a challenge. This is just 12 weeks to Christmas, doing something against the grains, you might even want to say. I just recognize a trend that happens in the United States every year, or maybe not even just the U.S., but a trend that happens very often. People gain weight going through the holiday seasons, and guess what? They never lose it. They never lose it. They actually, it's one of the studies that I looked at that showed, or reports I should say, it wasn't a study, showed that the average person gains about 4 pounds around the holiday season. And I saw some other statistics that said they gain 1 pound and 2 pounds and some other things. But basically, what I saw was a net profit of about 2 or 3 pounds for a lot of people, even when they do lose the weight later on. Now, the real concerning part is a lot of times these people don't lose the weight. And if they do lose the weight, they don't lose it until about 6 months later. So I think what I see happening is everyone's always talking about losing weight, and people should, when you talk about losing weight and you talk about health and you talk about aesthetics and you talk about performance, they all start to seem like very different things. But with your average person, with the standard American diet, with what they currently are doing and the current position that a lot of people are in, and even currently for a lot of people that are working out hard, but not getting the results that they want, maybe they are like heavier than they want to be, and it's not real apparent that they even work out, right? I've seen there's a lot of people that are like that, a lot of powerlifters that are like that, and I'm not trying to knock anybody or make fun of anybody. I'm here to help people get results. But a lot of times they'll lift and lift and lift and lift, but they're not really paying any attention to their diet. They're not paying any attention to their nutrition. And if you were to sit down and actually ask that person, say, what is your goal in the gym? Because I know you're going there every day. And you're actually very strong, but like, what's the goal? And they say, yeah, that's my goal. I don't really care a ton about the looks. I just want to be as strong as I can be. Well, right there, you'd have to stop them and say, your physique is not reflective of that. And here's why. Because if that's what you cared about, if you cared about being stronger, you would at least look like you lift. You would have more muscle mass on you. You would look more like a savage because you would be taking care of yourself better. You'd be sleeping better, and you wouldn't be eating a bunch of junk to try to be heavy, to lift heavy weights. Mm-hmm. Right? And so even if your objective is performance based, then things like the vertical diet still make sense. Things like an altered bodybuilding diet still makes sense. Still, something like the war on carbs might still make sense if you want to be in better shape or if you want to be stronger. Now, someone will say you can't get stronger on a keto diet, but that's why I said you might have to alter it a little bit. And a bodybuilding style diet's not always going to be great for powerlifting because there's not enough fat in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we're trying to be healthier and we're trying to be stronger, those things actually go together. And those things actually will help your appearance as well. It will help it will help you to look better as well. So you'll look like you lift when you start to bring these things together. One thing that I'm seeing people talk about a lot, and this happened on Joe Rogan's show, the last couple shows, where he had opposing opinions. He had a vegan guy on there, and he had a guy more like a keto guy on there. And then he had Lane Norton, and he had Dominic D'Agostino, and everybody was going off into the weeds with all these studies and different things. But what they lost sight of is that, and Joe Rogan, I thought, did a great job of bringing everybody back in to what's important. And what's important is people staying motivated and staying hungry, not hungry like physically like they want to eat, but staying hungry to be better every single day. And that has to be the driving force that's there. If you're unmotivated, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, you're not going to want to do it. And we talked in a previous podcast about believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then things are going to fall apart. I've done this before at seminars before, and I've asked people, to show me who in the room feels that they have something original to offer this world. And after a few minutes of kind of asking the question, nudging the crowd a little bit over and over again, the majority of the crowd raised their hand, and then the next question I went over was, who truly believes in that? Who really believes that they have something original to offer? And so I said, again, let's do it again. And when I did it the second time, less people put their hands up. The question was the same, but what happened was self-doubt crept in, and they didn't even take an opportunity on doing something that was free, just putting up their hand, and just believing in themselves and sticking to their guns. They second-guessed themselves when I asked them a second time, and I made that point, and I said, there's no reason for you to second-guess yourself. Did you second-guess yourself because of me? Like, we don't even know each other. You definitely shouldn't second-guess yourself because of me. But I think also too that they think I'm a big influence on their life, so it's even like more profound for them. So they're like, oh shit, well he's actually really asking the question. Maybe I have no business saying I'm an original because maybe he's going to ask me something and I ain't going to have an answer. I better just keep my hand down.
He's going to call me out on my bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of, again, it all comes back, and why does this have anything to do with diet? And why have I gone so far away from talking about this 12-week program? Is because this has everything to do with this 12-week program. This has everything to do with the amount of money and time I'm investing in making a movie with my brother on nutrition. This is my passion. This is going to be, ultimately, I think this is going to be my legacy. Now, it won't be lifting, it won't be bodybuilding, it won't be any of that. When this movie gets put together and this shit starts to come out and people start to see what people have to say and the opposing views and all the different stuff that comes together, it'll be 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 5 years down the road. People will be like, man, that fucking movie was crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what my brother and I will end up getting a lot of attention for, really.
No, even just seeing like a rough cut of like I don't even know if it's going to be a trailer, but it's just kind of like a quick little, 30-second hit on what we've done so far. And it's just like chills, because I'm just like, holy shit, this is going to be as big as Mark's been saying. You said it was going to be huge like since day one, and it's like, yeah, okay, cool. And then day two, it's like, you're still saying it. And then now, after seeing this little edit, I'm just like, holy shit, he was right. Not that I doubted you, but it's just like, now I see it where you saw it before. Now I can actually look and see like all this come together.
It's just a big topic, and I think people probably tune in here, and they probably tune in on Joe Rogan. They probably go, God damn, I can't get away from it. This guy's talking about keto. This guy's talking about, carbs. This guy's talking about getting in shape. This guy, there's a reason why everybody's talking about it. It's one of the biggest things that has impacted our country in a negative way. And, I do think there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of terrible things that can happen to us. We're susceptible to different things through terrorism and through other types of things. But I think one of the worst things that's happening is something that we can actually control, something that we all have control over, is the foods that we put in our body and the foods that our children put in our body. Anyway, I'll get back on the topic. So this 12-week program, it's going to be designed for you guys to have an opportunity to try out some different diets. And I'll lay this all out in a chart so you guys can kind of see what you're getting yourselves into. Now, what I don't want to have people do, though, I wanted to lay it out so that you can really see it, that you can really see and visualize what's going to happen and what's going to transpire. I didn't lay it out there so that you can look at it and go, oh, that middle part of the diet's going to be too hard. I'm not going to do it. What I want you to do, and what I will share with you over and over again, when you see the weeks of this diet, this 12-week program, it's all going to be free. I'm not trying to do anything other than give you information. When you see this laid out, if you feel like you can't switch from one diet to another, then don't. Just stay where you're at. And I'm going to repeat that over and over again. These are merely suggestions. What we are trying to do is we're trying to combat what happens at the holiday season. So the first diet that we start out with is the Don't Be So Fat diet, which is actually in my Jacked and Tan book, which I'm working on right now. And the Don't Be So Fat diet is like a non-diet diet. It's not real strict. We're going to have additions to your life that I've talked about before rather than subtractions. I would like you to eat some fruit. I'd like you to eat some vegetables. I'd like you to eat good sources of protein 3 times a day. Preferably, in my opinion, I think meat sources are great. If you're vegan or something, you're going to have to figure out other options. I don't know anything about any of that. But eggs, steak, chicken, lean ground beef, bison, elk, all these things are fair, are up for grabs in terms of what you eat. And in terms of vegetables, have at it. Find vegetables that you like and eat them. We don't have to go into, what's a FODMAP and what's a gassy vegetable and all these different things that my boy Stan Efferding talks about, because we don't have the same goal as the vertical diet. That's going to be the first block. The second block, we will roll into the vertical diet, and things will get a little tougher because we're going to have a little bit narrower path to kind of execute all this on. Once we go through some vertical dieting, we're going to move into the ketogenic diet. Once we move through the ketogenic diet, we're going to move into a carnivore style diet. Now, I'm going to allow for some vegetables just for those people that are concerned, that are like, hey, man, I don't know what that does and what that doesn't do. If you're that person and you're concerned. But the difference between the keto diet and the carnivore diet is just on the keto diet, you're going to have a little bit more freedom. You could have a keto pizza, and you can mix in some snacks and some different things. That's going to be a short-lived time period because I don't want you guys in that state for too long. But it will probably be about 3 or 4 weeks, which is actually long when you're doing it and you haven't done it before. Once we move through that, then we're going to get back into a bodybuilding diet, and we're going to try to replenish those muscles and bring up the glycogen stores again. But throughout the entire thing, you don't have to ever worry, because you need to know that I've been a fat kid my whole life, and I still am a fat kid. There'll be some cheat meals throughout this. There'll be some times to where people gain weight at the holidays, and people are like, oh, we celebrated this thing, and then I ate bad on Thursday, and then Friday came, and then Saturday, and then the football game was on Sunday, and then there was Monday Night Football, and it's like, whoa, like, man, like you cannot live your life that way. You can't let life just be a giant tidal wave and come crashing down on top of you. You have to take these things on as they come, and you have to make a decision. Do I want to go through with this? And if you do, and it feels comfortable, and it feels like the right thing to do, to cheat for that day, or to have some alcohol, or to go to a party and then end up eating some donuts, or whatever it is you end up doing, all these things are fine. It just needs to be accounted for. As Lane Norton pointed out on Joe Rogan's podcast, Lane Norton's really big on counting calories and factoring everything in, and flexible dieting, all these different things. And I agree with that, but I don't think that you have to necessarily write down the exact caloric amount, because I think that those things vary a lot. What I do think is important is that you keep track of it. You keep track of what you're doing. You're mindful of what you're doing. I ate a donut yesterday, so I'm not going to eat one today. I ate this, 3 days ago. I can go another week without it. let's say you're craving a sandwich, but then you find yourself 3 days in a row eating a sandwich. Well, it's time to knock that shit off and get back on track. So you want to track and pay attention to what you're doing. I'll never talk people out of tracking their food. Go ahead and track your macros if you'd like. But I'm not a macros guy. I never counted them, never been a fan of it. It can be highly effective, and it can be great for someone that's never done it before. It can be really beneficial to get a grasp of how many calories you're taking in, because you might be way the hell off. You might think you're getting 2,500 calories in, and you might be getting 3,500 calories in.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to be doing all 3 of these different types of diets along with everybody, right?
Yeah, it's probably end up being about 4 different diets in there.
My bad, all 4.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that's like adequate time? To really feel the benefits of each one.
Yeah, so I wanted to have it be a pretty long block. I wanted to have it be like if I said, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do it, in a 2-month block or a 1-month block, we could get the job done and I could have everybody lose some weight. But it wouldn't be, as they say, sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you would lose 10 pounds, but you might gain 12.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what I'm trying to do. I want it to be a little bit more long term. And so each one of these diets, going from the keto diet to the carnivore diet, even though those might only be 2-week slots for each one, you're going to be low carb in both cases. And when you switch over to the carnivore diet, you'll probably just be almost more in ketosis than you were before. However, there'll be a little upswing of protein. So that would be the one area where it's like you may never actually get, because it takes people time to get into actual nutritional ketosis.
Mm-hmm.
So that first part might be more like what everybody's normally talking about when they talk about a ketogenic diet. They're really talking about like a low carb diet.
Mm-hmm.
But all the rest of the diets that are in there, it's plenty of time for you to feel what it's supposed to feel like. As you know from dieting, even like 4 or 5 days of doing something, you're like, okay, I can kind of feel what this feels like.
Yeah.
4 or 5 days of really low carbs is like, you're like, oh man, like this is different. I don't know what's going on. Some people love it. Some people are like, man, I don't, maybe I'm doing it wrong, or they a lot of times they don't feel great.
Yeah, I don't really notice anything until I stop whatever the diet is. So like even if it's just 4 days low carb, and then that 5th day I have a double or whatever it is, and I'm just like, ooh, like I feel gross right now.
Yeah.
What did this diet do to me? I love it and now it's killing me.
And that's why I've been a real proponent of, and I know Joel Green came on here and he shared all this stuff about these hacks for ice cream, these hacks for alcohol. That guy's got an understanding of food that is beyond anybody I've ever met. But what I would say is, I think that the positive effects of a blueberry or an avocado or whatever magical food you feel is out there, the positive effects of those foods doesn't come close to to the impact of how negative some of the foods are.
Yeah.
I think the other problem, too, with the negative foods, and the reason why everything tends to plummet downward even harder, with the negative foods, what happens is you're not getting what you need on the positive end, and so your net of what you actually need is going down. Like you might need certain B vitamins, or you might need certain D vitamins, or you might need certain this or certain that, and you're not getting it from eating French fries all day. You're kind of missing out on getting some of the nutrients that you really need. And so I think that, like, again, I don't think, like, if you're sick, or let's just use being fat as an example, right? You're fat. If you eat really healthy foods for 5 days, even if you're in a caloric surplus, the fat doesn't come off. Like, those foods don't just eat away your fat. They don't just go inside your body and destroy all the fat. Even in a caloric deficit, if you do something for 5 days, 7 days, you might not notice much difference. It's going to take a while. However, you going down a bunch of donuts, you're gonna feel really bad really fast. I mean, it might even just impact your blood sugar so negatively that right away you don't feel very good. So I think the negative effects of shitty food are stronger than the positive effects of foods that are really beneficial. In addition to the diet, I'm going to talk about, the type of cardio that I'm going to be doing throughout. I'm going to talk about the type of exercises I'm going to be doing throughout. I'm just going to try to share as much information as I can, and you're going to see it in as many different platforms as you can. And that's what we're going to do, and we're going to kind of roll with it. And I want to see, by December 25th, Christmas Day, I want you guys to open up the best present of all, which is being in the best shape of your life. Honestly and truly, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see people say, you know what? Fuck the holidays. I lost 10 pounds and I feel great, or they just reached their goal. Because this is not really about weight loss, and this is not a transformation challenge. I'm not giving my car away at the end. I'm not, going to give you a pair of Bose headphones for doing a good job. The gift that you're going to get, the reward that you're going to get, is you're going to be rewarding yourself by taking charge of your life and not letting life snowball on top of you, not letting life take charge of you just end up in these situations, and so you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And we're just not going to do that anymore. We're not going to tolerate that anymore. And I want to see some changes, because I don't want to see people having heart disease. I don't want to see people feeling depressed and upset and all these. I think that all these things are very manageable. Not in all cases, but in most cases, I think many of these things are manageable through food. And the other thing too that really, has a huge impact on me is just how many people get unmotivated. I have not had many unmotivated moments in my life. That's not any knock on anybody that's unmotivated. That's not a knock against someone who's depressed or anything like that. It's just that, as I always say on the show, I was born in a household where I had everything I needed. I always felt very secure. I had plenty of love in my family, and I never felt bad about myself. I never felt like, well, every kid feels bad about themselves, but I never had a large degree of that, where someone else might have the severe case of it, and maybe mom and dad weren't around to ever pick the kid up, or maybe mom and dad were the reason why they had low self-esteem. I never had any of those things. And I think that a lot of those things, I think self-esteem, how you feel, can often lead to being unmotivated. I also think being realistic is a big thing. And so I think sometimes people get unmotivated by being a little bit unrealistic, because they're thinking of this mountain that they got to climb. They're sitting at the bottom of this mountain, and they're just looking up, and they're like, man, they say to themselves, I don't think I can ever get to the top of that mountain. I don't think there's anything I can do to ever get to the top of that. And that's not what you should be looking at. What you should be looking at, let's say the mountain represents your fitness career, like your fitness life, right? Your physique, your overall health, all these things. And let's say that, at 20 years old, you made a decision to get in better shape, and shit, you kicked ass. You made it halfway up the side of that mountain. And you were like, wow, like this is awesome. You started running, you started to eat better, you started to lift, you got way into it. Maybe you met somebody else that's way into it too, and you did it together, and you're all in good shape. Well, you break up with that girl, you hurt your knee running. Next thing you know, you're sliding back down that mountain again, right? But what were the thoughts that you had to get going in the first place? What were the thoughts that had you put one foot in front of the other? You probably were so naive in the beginning that you never even thought to look all the way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
You're never like, oh man, like you weren't starting out. When you started out in photography, you weren't like, this is going to be so awesome. I'm going to be the best for, like, whoever the best photographer is, whoever's known. What is it? Chase, whatever his name,
Chase Jarvis
is
he's
known.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, he's known as one of the best, right? So you don't go hunting down Chase Jarvis when you just first bought your first camera,
right?
It's like this first camera represents a lot of future hard work, and I'm going to bust my ass, and I'd love to, like, eventually you start kind of climbing that mountain. But what you did is you took steps to get the camera and to get your body in motion
Mm-hmm.
towards that goal. This is the same thing. And you can't really look up when you're trying to go after some of these goals because it's dangerous, and it will be overwhelming. You will think that an avalanche is going to come crashing down on you when things aren't right, and you need to be realistic about it. You need to be calm. You need to be cool. You need to be collected. Maybe you need to take some Kratom. You need to kind of relax for a minute, and you need to kind of reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah.
And you need to say to yourself, how bad is this? Now, if you're someone that's like, you're addicted to drugs and you took a turn that way, well, you got a much bigger problem, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something very small. You packed on 20 pounds when you shouldn't have, or you packed on 10 pounds when you shouldn't have. It's not going to be hard. It's not going to be a hard problem to solve. So what we got to do is we got to kind of backtrack. What do you like to do? What activity do you like to do? And you might say, well, I used to love riding my bike. I used to ride my bike everywhere. All right, well, get back on your damn bike
Mm-hmm.
and start getting on your bike. I heard some stuff recently. Anytime you're having trouble being creative or even having trouble relaxing, play some old music.
Mm.
Somebody might say, oh, it would be great to play some music. You can relax. Well, not all music is relaxing, for one. And number two, if the music doesn't hit you the right way, if you don't, quote unquote, feel it, then it won't work. It won't work the right way. You ever try to get like hyped, or you try to just get a certain feel? I mean, we do it all the time here in the gym. You kick in a certain song. Well, there's like certain songs that do it for you, and there's certain songs that don't, right?
Yeah. I know I'll get stuck at the iPod in the gym, just hit and skip. Like, nope, that's not it. Skip. And I was like, fuck. Okay, I'll take this one then, just because I want to get the lift over with.
Yeah.
But no, I know exactly what you mean.
And so you can, but you can utilize that same thing. What is it that you like to do? If you don't like to do anything physically, well, then that's going to be kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
But try stuff. Try getting on a bike. Try walking. Oh man, the gym's not for me. That's okay. If that's where we're going to start, that's okay. We do need to get in the gym at some other point, but we don't have to all start out by lifting like a bunch of maniacs. Find the things that you used to like to do, and turns out you probably still like them. And then same thing with your food. Why does food always have to be so hard? Why does it always have to be so difficult? You just ask somebody on the freaking street. Ask 10 people on the street. Hey, man, do you like fruit? They'll probably be like, what? Because they won't know what the hell you're talking about at first. They heard you, but they're kind of shocked you asked them about fruit. They probably think it's some setup question.
I was going to say, is this something sexual?
Yeah. Do you like bananas? How about a peach?
How about that grapefruit? Or grapefruit.
Yeah. Eggplant.
Eggplant. God, way off.
Mm-hmm.
That's how excited I got.
I know. You got way excited. But, you start by saying, hey, what kind of fruit do you like? And someone will be like, oh, I like oranges. Okay, chubs, start eating some oranges then. How about you eat 2 oranges every day? How about vegetables? They're like, oh, man, I hate vegetables. Well, there's a lot of variety of vegetables to choose from. There's peppers, there's onions. I mean, there's a wide array. So you find a vegetable that you can deal with, that you like, that you can do something with, right? So you go over that, boom. Okay, what kind of meat do you like? I know there's like vegan people out there and stuff, but I haven't really run into a lot of people that hate all forms of meat. I've run into people that don't like chicken. I've run into people that don't like steak. I've run into people that don't like fish. But I've never really seen anyone be like, any form of meat, disgusting, can't eat it. Obviously, you do have people that make the choice to not eat meat, but that's kind of a different story. Find a source of meat that you like. If you like eggs, that can be really convenient because the eggs can kind of play into all kinds of different things. But if you don't have to eat eggs. And then in terms of carbohydrate sources, if you're on a diet where you're eating some carbohydrates, try some potatoes. Your potatoes are too dry, try a sweet potato. You don't like those, try a Japanese sweet potato. There's a huge variety of foods to try. We always talk about when we were ate at Kyle Kingsbury's place and how good those carrots were. Just had a blend of these different carrots. I never even seen some of those carrots.
I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a potato. It was a carrot.
Psychedelic carrots. We were high as shit. It might not have tasted good. I don't even know.
we were in another universe at that point.
But anyway, you catch my drift here. You see my point. Things don't have to be that hard. What about if you go through dairy, right? Like some people like milk, some people don't. What about yogurt? Do you like yogurt? The people that usually hate yogurt, they usually like cottage cheese. It's like we can start to find some like ground here, right? We can start to find some things here to where we can say, okay, you don't really love vegetables, but let's just be honest, a piece of celery doesn't really taste like anything. How about you throw some cottage cheese on your celery, and that's a snack in the middle of the day. You ate some vegetables, all right, you fat bastard. We got you to do something, right? And it's productive because the cottage cheese has protein in it and things like that, right? Amino acids and so on.
Yeah, I don't really like celery because it gets stuck in my teeth.
I hate celery
It's the
myself.
worst.
Well, that's one reason why I don't like popcorn. It gets stuck in my teeth all the time. I got this one like little spot right here. Stuff gets stuck in my teeth. I had a long time ago. I had this like dental thing done way in the back of my, in the back of my mouth. And when they were like, they did like a crown or something back there, and they're like, "Do you want to not have to floss back here, or do you want to? You want like a little space there?" I was like, "Freaking close it up, man!" I'm like, I don't want to have to worry about that.
Can you line me up for all my other teeth too?
Yeah, you just do all of them.
Yeah. I never really see you eating yogurt.
I do eat some yogurt here and there, but it's so you didn't see me used to eat yogurt because I wasn't cured of my lactose intolerance until more recently. So I've been able to eat it. I've been able to eat that. I've been able to drink milk, and it's because of Joel Green having me get infant formula, and that Reds product has helped a lot. But I take them almost every day. I still take both of them almost every day. But anyway, the point is like you can find delicious foods, and if you look at Stan Efferding's vertical diet, there's plenty of food on there to choose from. I don't really, haven't really run into anyone that like hates rice. Like I've never heard anyone be like, "I hate rice."
Yeah, usually.
Sometimes they don't really love it, but they don't like hate it, and it's like not a hard thing to eat.
Yeah, I don't love brown rice, but just like regular white rice that Stan recommends is kind of awesome. And it's funny when you tell people like, yeah, that's what's in the vertical diet. Like, I thought I wasn't supposed to have any rice, period. It's like, no, you can have it. Oh, I got to check this out. So that's pretty cool. I really like
amazing.
that aspect of it because you eat the protein first and then you get your rice as dessert. Well, for me, it's dessert.
Well, I think rice, as with a lot of starches, rice and bread. Rice is not as good as bread, but that's because bread has so much shit done to it. It's got salt and sugar, and they do lots of things to bread. But to me, it's almost like bread, where it takes on whatever. Like so, with bread, you can make peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And that is amazing. But like, it's because the bread will take on the flavor of like whatever you're using it for, and that's why you can have like a meatball sub and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, they'll both be really good, or grilled cheese, or like you get into these different things. The bread kind of takes on the flavor that, to me, in my opinion, rice does that in a similar way to the different foods that we're allowed to eat. Unfortunately, I never tried it with peanut butter and jelly, but I'll take some sticky rice and put some peanut butter and jelly in between it and try it out.
You can cook it to where it almost gets like a little like crunchy. Like how something like the bottom of the pot, it's like crunchy. I look forward to that stuff.
What kind of rice do you use?
Just regular Calrose rice. I believe that's what Stan recommends. You get a big old sack of it at Costco. We
should go over to this. We're in West Sacramento, California, by the way, and I think it's like the rice capital of the world. There's I drive over every single day. It's called the Causeway, and it's miles and miles and miles, not even acres. It's miles and miles and miles of rice. Just rice land, I guess you'd say. Really pretty crazy. But then where our warehouse is and stuff, there's like rice factory, and then in Woodland there's a giant rice mill out there.
Yeah, so the bag of rice that we get, it shows that it was like, I don't know if it says manufactured, but it shows Woodland, California. And like, dude, I've lived here for so long and I never even paid attention to what that fucking building was.
Dude, that's disgusting. You're eating something from Woodland?
I know. Well, I didn't know till after we bought it.
God damn.
And it's a gigantic,
now you gotta go
80-pound
through the whole
bag.
thing.
Yeah, I have to go through it now. Why is Ezekiel bread okay?
I think it's sprouted,
Mhm.
so I think that maybe because it's sprouted, it's like easier to digest.
Okay.
Stan talks a lot about how things are easier to digest, and so with what Stan Efferding does with the vertical diet, it's it's to get you to eat a meal that's nutritious and has enough nutrients to give you what you need, and he tries to space it out throughout the day. So Stan's theory is that the fiber that you eat for breakfast isn't going to help you at dinner. Now, kind of technically, it sort of would because the fiber that you eat in the morning, it'd probably take a long time to digest, and you could argue that the poop that you're making 10 hours later is
Mhm.
probably from breakfast, whatever, right?
Mhm.
But you get his point. The vitamins and the minerals that you take today are not going to help you tomorrow, right? The vitamins and minerals that you take today aren't going to help you this Friday or Sunday or whatever, right?
Mhm.
You have to do it all the time. And so he tries to implement small amounts of potassium, small amounts of fiber, small amounts of kind of whatever you can get away with. Now, you can't really, because of the mission that most of us are on, you can't really get around having like really small amounts of protein or
Mhm.
really small amounts of carbohydrates. And that's where the meal will sometimes get like bigger and bigger. And due to the fact the meal has a certain size to it, if you try to eat 50 grams of protein, let's say, and 50 grams of carbohydrates by having like a cheeseburger or something like that, you would probably start to be over the limit of fat that you can have. Or even if you did it with like a turkey sandwich, you would probably be like taking in just like a lot of junk from the processed turkey and everything.
Mhm.
And then that food would probably take such a long time to kind of break down and break up that you might not be ready for your next meal 2.5, 3 hours. So that's Rhino's goal, and that's what he's trying to do, is to keep your body digesting everything and keep everything rolling. He sometimes will say certain words, and then people get all pissy
Mhm.
because he'll say, that meat breaks down, fairly easily. What he means is the digestion process isn't hard on your body. Um, that meat doesn't like cause like a lot of gas. Meat typically, unless you eat like a really large amount of it, doesn't cause a lot of bloating. And then so people get all pissed because they're like, meat takes forever to digest, and he doesn't mean it that it doesn't take time to digest. But anyway, I'm excited to get people to try some of these different diets and to get people to again, our buddy out there, DJ Webb, has been saying he's been kind of unmotivated. He unfortunately he was here in Sacramento with us for a long time, and we loved having him here. And then he got stationed in Texas, and so we're without him. He's without us. We're both
Mhm.
heartbroken.
Mhm.
Um, we lost a guy that had a lot of great motivation. He brought everybody up when he was in here. He's always smiling. He was super strong. He was super
Mhm.
jacked. And then now he's like, he's not all situated out there in Texas yet, and so it's hard. And that's what happens when our life starts to get in our way, when our life starts to kind of take over. That's when you have a tendency to break down, and your mood is a big deal.
Mhm.
The way that you feel is a huge factor in the whole thing. If you're not happy and you're not excited, it's gonna be that much easier to just be like, oh man, screw it.
Mhm.
Oh man, screw it. I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna eat whatever I want today, right?
Right.
It gets easier to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think for him, and I do this all the time, and most people, like once they're, like you said, climbing that mountain and they're halfway there and they start to slide or whatever, they really focus on the negatives. And in his case, it was, the gains that he had. He might not have them anymore. He might be a little bit softer than he was. For me, I'll gain some weight and feel good, and then I'll jump on the scale and, like after being sick this weekend, I know I lost weight, and I'm gonna be focused on that the entire time. Um,
That's crazy. You think you lost a couple lbs?
yeah, I definitely have, just because I'm not eating as frequently as I was. But I mean, what can we focus on? obviously, if I just say like, oh, we're focused on the negatives, we'll focus on the positives.
Mhm.
But like, how can we like easier forget? Almost like that didn't happen. Like, I just told him a couple of things that like I felt were like good moves to make. But for myself, like all I'm gonna be thinking about is like, fuck, dude, I just spent 4 months trying to gain that weight, and one weekend it's gone.
Again, I got to go back to like, when you're a kid, you almost need to think about when you fell and scraped your knee and your mom or your aunt or somebody got close to you and what they do. Like a lot of teachers do this. This is a tactic that some people just do instinctually and just, but it's been like scientifically proven that when you get down on a child's level, it's less overbearing, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of people will bend down with the kid and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry you scraped your knee." But like, what does mom do? Mom immediately like rubs it and she'll kiss it, right? She'll say all this stuff to you, but really they tell you to calm down. They just basically, "Oh, calm down, honey. It's gonna be okay. It's just a small boo boo. Like it's not a big deal, right?" And I think that you need to have this conversation with yourself.
Mhm.
And and I talk about these things all the time. I think sometimes people think I'm a little crazy, but this is when like self-love comes into play. Like how much do you care about yourself and what are you going to do about it? And so it's okay to be negative, but I think another tactic that you can do is you can kind of think, first of all, okay, I need to calm myself down from the situation. This situation isn't that bad. Um, Start to look at the situation and start to think to yourself, what are the things that I can control? What are the things that I can? Maybe some things are out of control, but maybe I should figure out a way for those things to not be out of control. And this is where you can go to a partner or you can go to your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever you have in your life, and you can ask them for help. I'm a big, I believe in people. Maybe I shouldn't, but I believe in people. And I think that if you go to somebody and you say, you know what, man, like if you went out in the gym and you told everybody in the gym and you said, I want to have a stronger bench.
Mhm.
Like that's what I want. When you see me training, like if you want to like yell for me or like punch me or whatever, like whatever gets you fired up. If you want to help me get fired up, then or even just like you're hanging in here one day after training and stuff and be like, Mark helps me with my bench all the time and it's great, but I wanted to learn a little bit more. Marcus, what do you do for like your triceps? I want to build them up a little bit more. My shoulder's been acting weird. Like, do you got anything, what should I do? And that's where a lot of this stuff will really reverse itself and you'll really get off the negative is when you kind of reload and focus in on how do I take care of these problems? Because anybody can point out a problem, but to try to figure out how to solve it is difficult. And it's really frustrating. Something stupid that frustrates me, like I have too much stuff, just period, and here I am, I worked my whole life to obtain and acquire stuff, and now I have way too much of it, right? I got too many shirts, I got too many shorts, I got too many pairs of socks, I got too much food in my fridge, I got too much food in my pantry, right? But like what, so if I'm going to complain about it, and I'm going to be like, man, this shit's unorganized. First of all, it's 100% my fault. It's nobody else's fault. So I'd have to this is where you have to have a little time to yourself. This is why you make time for yourself. Now, sometimes when you get in a situation, you change in jobs, you change lifestyle, you change locations and things like that. You don't have a lot of time for yourself. But you're going to need to figure out, how do I block off a little bit of time for myself so I can reorganize my thoughts? Because what's going on right now is not working. It's not making me happy. You need to realize that these negative thoughts that are coming into play are there to kind of keep you addicted to what it is that you're doing. Because addiction, by definition, in some ways, is you're trying to end up with a result that you're never really going to get. Like you keep trying and trying and trying, and like nothing, it's like you're masturbating and there's no end to it.
Oh,
Like
no.
you just keep getting close to it, but it's never like it was the first time, right?
That sounds awful.
I know. but you never really get the reward. You never really get the thing at the end that you need, right? Or need to
Right.
release, rather. And I think that's what happens with people a lot. I mean, I've had this kind of thing happens, not the whacking off part, but this kind of thing happens to me, all the time. And it's where you have to kind of sit down and say, okay, here's the things I need to do so this stops happening. As you know, I end up late to stuff a lot, and so over the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to clean that up, and I've been a little bit better with it. And now I try to manage it through other means too. Like I try not to really say, like, "Hey, I'll meet you there at 10," because I know that's not going to work. So I'll say like, "Hey, we're going to probably work out between like 12 and 1,"
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a little easier for me to make those things work. But that's what's important. You need to break it down and figure out, how do I make this work? If you legitimately don't have any time for the gym for a little while, then you might just have to let that play out and let that be that way, and realize that when you do have the opportunity to come back to the gym, that you're going to be that much hungrier and you're going to be that much more fulfilled when you get back to it. Is there any form of exercise that you can do? Can you walk? Can you clean up the diet? I wouldn't even bother with some things like push-ups and sit-ups and stuff. And the reason why I say that is because that'll probably be unmotivating
Mm-hmm.
in and of itself. You'll be like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do it, and you're going to be like, this sucks. Or work out in some, like, cheap hotel. Now, if you work out at a hotel that has, like, some shitty equipment and you do it one time, it's not a big deal. Or you're away for 2 or 3 days and you get in there twice, that's actually great. But when you're trying to get back into a routine, things like that sometimes aren't a great option. Sometimes it's actually better just to wait. I'm going to wait until this situation is a little bit better, a little bit more stable, and I got to just realize on the weekends, when I do have free time where I want to go to the gym, I can't go to the gym because it's the only free time I have to myself. It's the only free time I have with my family. Those kinds of things. You have to kind of talk yourself off the ledge. Think about when you were a kid and you wiped out and you fell off your bike or whatever, and you were crying hysterically, and someone grabbed you, and that feeling of security. And you remember that, like, you couldn't breathe. You're like,
Oh yeah.
and you see your own kid do it at some point. You're like, why are they freaking out, man? What's wrong with these things? What's wrong
Just
with these?
breathe.
Yeah, what's wrong with these damn kids?
It's like reverse hiccups. Like they
Yeah.
can't.
It's crazy. And sometimes they choke. They like crying so much that they choke.
Oh God.
It gets to be really, really crazy. But I think that as adults, that we actually kind of get to those spots, but we just don't do it in the same
Right.
dramatic
not
fashion.
Not as animated anymore.
Yeah, not nearly as animated. And
Mhm.
As I was talking earlier about being, whether people feel that they have something original to offer, and about how they truly feel about themselves, and how you can't let self-doubt creep in. The self-doubt is going to drive that negativity. And that's where, again, you're going to have to take a step forward without really thinking about it. You can't look at that mountain and think about how damn hard it's going to be to climb, because if you do that, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, and you're not going to ever take that first step.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is just like almost just pretend you're like, hey, no, I'm just resting right now. I'm recovering.
Mhm.
So that way you can kind of take that serious, because people don't really do that anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Can you grab this phone from me, and then we'll switch it over to the other IG so we can stick it on the
Yeah.
live one? No, I mean, that is a big part of it. You need to. It's yeah, put it on, stick it on my IG. We all get into these ruts and we all get unmotivated, but just take your time. If you're off your diet right now and you're off your plan, follow along on my Instagram, because I'm going to be, taking people through this whole 12-week process, and you can jump in at any time. This is not like you have to jump in at some specific time or whatever. Boop. And I'm live on Instagram now too. Wabam. There we go. But you need breaks from stuff. It doesn't make any sense to diet all the time. It doesn't make any sense to work on increasing your bench all the time. It doesn't make any sense to work on increasing your squat all the time. It doesn't make sense to try to always gain weight all the time. You want to do things for a period of time, get a nice spike out of it, get something from it, get a nice reward from it, have it actually happen, and then you want to try to move into something else. And the key to life, in my opinion, is not to get stuck. You want to stick and move. You want to be like Muhammad Ali. You want to get in stuff and you want to get out of stuff. And you want to always try to keep moving. Once you start to stop and once you start to feel overwhelmed, that's when you get crushed. That's when this world will crush you. Is when you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, like there's so much stuff going on. And I mean, you guys would be shocked if you stayed here for a week at super training and worked out with us and worked with us. Work out with us and work with us. You would go, oh my god, the hell's going on in that place? I mean, there's not a week where there's not a guest.
Mm-hmm.
There's always guests coming in. There's always a photo shoot planned. There's always a podcast going on. Each person in here handles a tremendous amount of work. There's not a lot of us, but we're all very feisty, and we all work really hard. But the amount of work that happens inside this building is pretty crazy. But one of the things that keeps the lights on and keeps everything driving forward is it's kind of rare for us to do the same thing. Like we're not really. I think Andrew's old job was I think he literally did the same thing every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
He's still alive, which is shocking, but he did the same thing every day.
That was so bad. That was the worst thing was when I realized that if I disappeared, nobody would have noticed anything.
Yeah.
And that's a shitty feeling to have.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. And it's unmotivating, right? And you don't want to be doing the same things all the time. Look at someone like Michael Hearn. Michael Hearn has been lifting weights for 40 years. He's 50 years old, I think. He's been crushing it for a really long time. But he's always sticking and moving. Yes, he's always lifting. But sometimes he's powerlifting, and sometimes he's bodybuilding. Sometimes he's doing both. Sometimes he's cutting because he's got an appearance. And sometimes he's in bulk mode, right? He switches it up a lot. It's all lifting. It's all the same thing. He is a meathead, right? And so am I. But he consistently and constantly is changing things up. And what I've found for myself and, training with Andrew and stuff, what I'm starting to see is I'm getting really strong and I'm not hurt. I did the other day doing some shoulder stuff. I actually tweaked my back a tiny bit and felt 2 inches shorter the next day.
Oh no!
And then I was totally fine. So that's why today when we do some back stuff, but again, I'm going to switch it up. I'm not going to do the same thing. You tweak your back in a workout, and then you're just going to okay, time to deadlift. That's just not. It's irresponsible of yourself to do something like that. You want to try to keep changing things, and you want to always. That's a way that you're going to avoid being unmotivated. A lot of times, when you're unmotivated, you're going to be looking at the negative. When you're looking at the negative, try something different. Try something fun. Think about something old or something new to try. Something old would be going for a bike ride, or hopping on a motorcycle. Could be anything. Do something that makes you happy. Do something that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But don't do anything that's damaging. Don't do anything that's damaging. Don't go out and drink. Don't go out and eat a bunch of crap. Because you got to remember your goal. If you're currently not on a diet because you've been dieting and you've been doing all these other things, that's right about where I'm at right now. I'm still not eating a bunch of junk. I have a little bit of freedom with my diet. On the way out of here today, I had, when we were here for some meetings and stuff this morning, I ended up being here a lot longer than I anticipated. I did bring a meal with me, but I crushed that meal, and then 2 hours later, I was hungry. Didn't realize I was going to be here that long. I ate a Quest cookie, right before I left here, got home, and I threw down some more food. Big deal. The Quest cookie in the grand scheme of things is not going to be so detrimental to me, right? And it's like a diet cookie basically, right? In a lot of ways. So normally a Quest cookie is not on my diet. Normally somebody who's really trying to take their training seriously is not going to allow anything else to take up space in their stomach other than things that are going to continue to move them forward. And that's how dedicated like someone like Stan Efferding is. And that's kind of the end goal, is how do you become a maniac like that and stay that motivated? But for most of us, we got to figure out different things to do. And even someone like Stan, who's as regimented as could be, he's changing things up all the time. The science is changing. Everything's changing. Now, different people have different mentalities in this world. In my opinion, each person's digestive system, each person's brain, each person's fingerprints. There's like 7 billion people on this planet. Why aren't we all exactly the same? Why can one person eat a peanut and another person eat a peanut and die? Right? Like, why does that exist? Why would one person, watch a baseball game and think about physics when somebody else is thinking about, wow, that guy's really powerful. Look at his stance. Somebody else is thinking about just baseball in general, or somebody's thinking about a technique or whatever. It's just because we're all so vastly different. And when you start to think about these things, then that would lend itself to the understanding of maybe we are all here to provide something a little different for each other. And maybe we're here to kind of like learn from each other and expand and grow. And if you believe in that process, life will really, a lot of avenues will open up for you, and a lot of things will actually make more sense. Now, if you were to say to somebody, I'm a genius, they're going to think you're an asshole.
Mhm.
But some of the truth of that is being a genius is actually, it's like a manifestation of your body, mind, and soul towards being original. That's all being a genius really is. That's what the definition of being a genius. I'm sure you can look it up and you probably find some different definitions, but that's kind of what it means to me. It's just you trying to figure out a way to express yourself as being original and coming up. It doesn't really necessarily mean that you need a new concept, because new and original can be a little bit different from each other. But if I ask you guys that question, do you believe that you're a genius? A lot of you would probably say no, because you would think that you start to think about Albert Einstein. But there's different levels of genius, and there's different levels of being different. Not everybody is going to be like Elon Musk. And why isn't everybody going to be like Elon Musk? It's because of what I just said earlier. Everybody's different. We're going to sometimes, the one thing that remains the same about human beings is that we love variety, it seems like, right? It seems like when it comes to food, the second that I say, all right, Andrew, you said you like apples, so you get to eat apples. As soon as I say that to Andrew, the next question is going to be, well, what else do I get to eat? Right? Because he might like apples, but he's like, shit, man, like, I need something else.
Mhm.
I can't just eat apples. But no, Andrew, you said you love apples, so have at it. You can have apples.
No, I said apples with peanut butter.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, human beings love variety. They say variety is the spice of life, right? And we all just are so vastly different, and that's why when these people are, that's actually really funny. A guest that's going to be on the podcast is trying to FaceTime me right now. That's pretty funny. Gabriel Lyon. Can't wait to have her on the podcast. She's going to be amazing. We are loaded up.
Mhm.
We are a loaded diaper right now, in the front and the back.
Yeah. I know. I'm really excited
Eggplant.
all day.
We got my boy Wheat Belly coming on the show. It's Dr. William Davis, and I talked to him last night, and I set him off. I didn't mean to. I was like, hey, I was going to get some tests done, but I figured I'd check in with you before I get any of his work done. Let me back up a little bit. William Davis, a.k.a. the guy who wrote a book called Wheat Belly, is a cardiologist. And so I sent him some information and said, hey, I was going to get some of these tests done. I'd love to do it before you get here, and maybe you can check some of it out. I'll get some blood work done, and we could talk about it like on the podcast. And he was like, okay, great, but why the F are you getting this test done? And what is this about? And why would someone do that? And he's like, this is all a scam. And then he called me.
Wow.
And I answered the phone. He was going nuts. He was like, don't do this. He's like, this is what's going to happen. He goes, you go in there and get it was like an angiocardiogram, or I can't even remember what it was. I'm sorry. I wish I could remember exact details. But he said, don't do it. He goes, here's what's going to happen when you go get that test done. He goes, they're going to look at your arteries and they're going to be like, we can't really 100% sure tell, but it doesn't look good. We know that. It doesn't look good, Mark. And I'd love to send you home, but I don't feel confident doing that. This is unsafe. You need to get another test done. And he's like, boom, then he'll send you somebody else. He goes, when they do that, he's like, they just made $25,000.
Damn.
He was like, holy shit, what the hell is he even talking about? So,
and was that the test where like they inject you with like the lead stuff and then they can
so that would be the second test.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first test was, let me actually look it up because it won't take me long. But he was on fire. It was great.
So speaking of my last job, I used to actually like format and file all of those. Once you get the test done, like all the results, I would make sure you have that in your file in the right spot.
Right.
All day long.
The worst. And you know what's even worse about that? Whenever I go, they don't have any of my information.
Yeah, it's because they have people like me fucking it all up.
Oh, my God. They never have my information. And then, to make matters even worse, I'll actually go to these guys and I'll say, listen, I don't even want to use insurance. They're like, well, why would you do that? That's asinine. They're like, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. They're like, you can probably get some of it insured at least. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want paperwork. And I don't want this guy and that guy making money off all this shit. I just want to pay. Can I just pay for it? What does it cost? When I go to In-N-Out Burger and I get a double, it costs X amount of dollars. Doesn't this X-ray or this machine or this MRI or this piece of shit over here, doesn't that just have a certain cost to it? Like,
where do I put the quarter in to get the thing to print?
They're like, you won't want to do that. It's really expensive. And I'm like, yeah, it's not as expensive as the route that you want to go, because in the end, that's going to cost everybody a lot more money.
Yeah, even with insurance, like I'll tell them like, hey, can you charge me everything right now? Whatever my payment is, can you please just let's take care of that right now. You don't want
some giant bill 2 months from now.
Whatever the end result is going to be, can I please do that right now? Oh yeah, sure. Pay the $20 or whatever it is, and I always get a bill like 3 months later for X amount of services. I'm just like, dude, I fucking told you guys. And it's not because it comes out to being a lot of money. It's just like, I don't know how to pay you guys now because I'm not there.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to mail something out because I don't even know how to mail something out. And like, you guys...
No one uses the mailbox anymore.
You don't have a website that I can use like my PayPal account on. So next time, just give me everything up front. And it never works. It's so annoying.
So I was telling them that I was going to get a coronary angiography, and this is all kind of due to like I had some chest shit going on a while back, and I had an EKG stress test. He actually said those were, that's pretty good. Everything checked out to be totally fine, but I didn't want to I never really found out is there some issue? Do I have an irregular heartbeat, or what the hell it was? No one was really able to give me any sort of answer. And so I was like, well, I don't want to just leave that for chance. I'd rather learn more about it. Maybe there is a blockage somewhere, or maybe I was actually feeling something that is related to, heart disease or something. And so anyway, I was trying to figure it out. This doctor will help me figure it out. I have a calcium, it's called the calcium score. And when I get all this stuff done, and I'll share all this stuff with you guys, so you guys can be strong and healthy too. The test is only $100, $200, something like that. It's not crazy. But basically, it just gives you a baseline. And he said, okay, this number will be, he's like, whatever it is, let's say it's 200. He's like, as long as the next time you go, which might be 2-3 years from now, he's like, it's at 200 or it's lower. He's like, then we're golden. He goes, but if it goes from 200 to 400, we have a problem. That doesn't make sense. He's like, naturally, it will go up about 20% nearly every year. But, with exercise and other things, it could go up a little slower. And he pointed out to a bunch of different cases. He's like, oh, do you know this guy and that guy? He was naming all these famous people that dropped dead at really young ages of a heart attack. And it was because they just got shit information.
Mm.
They were given statin drugs, and they were putting these like stents and these different things in their hearts and doing all kinds of crazy shit that these people just, it was unnecessary. The people didn't need them. He said the people were told to go exercise, and they were told to, kind of continue on with whatever diet they were on. And they just gave them these statin drugs, and they thought that between the exercise and those drugs and some of these different operations that it would help people, and it didn't. People fucking dropped dead from it. And so it's going to be amazing having him on the podcast. And then also Gabriel Lyon is she's basically like a muscle doctor, I would call her. She knows a lot about muscle, a little bit like Andy Galpin, I would say. I think her background might be quite a bit different than that, but that's some of my understanding. We'll have Andy Galpin on the podcast.
I was gonna say, see if he can send you that the picture of your muscle.
Oh, I got to show it
thing.
to you. Yeah, he sent me a thingy for it. I'll show you. But yeah, he's going to come in with a giant poster.
Yeah.
Of the muscle biopsy that he did.
We gotta show that to Gabrielle. Maybe we'll get her going too.
Oh yeah. All right, you guys got a couple questions. I'm seeing some questions popping up here, and I'll answer a few of them before we hop on out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody was actually on the YouTube side, the podcast side, they were saying for you to get your calcium test done or something like that. They were really adamant about it.
Calcium score?
Yeah, they were freaking out. They're like, you got to do it. It's so important, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And then you were right, or he was right.
Yeah, well, what's a great thing about some of that is that, and I've had other people tell me some of this, but it's taken me this long to like actually be headed in the right direction, which is just ridiculous. Because I don't even know. I still don't know whether you can go and get a calcium score done. But what I would say is like, hey, if it's this important, then you should be able to get it done without a script, without a prescription. And also, like, I don't know, like, it's hard for these people to ever agree on anything. And I don't know. I guess I believe too much that people want to help rather than continue to leave shit the way it is and just watch their pockets get. I know a lot of doctors, and a lot of them are great people. So it's hard for me to just be like, oh yeah, they want to, pad their pockets. But I guess it's not them; it's the pharmaceutical companies, and it's it's just the way that things are. It's not necessarily the doctor. One thing I did hear recently about doctors is that there's a lot of attention paid to technology. There's a lot of attention paid to becoming a doctor. In the United States, we have some of the best doctors in the world. There's other countries that have good doctors too, but we got some great ones here. When you actually need medical care, a lot of times you can get some pretty good things done. There's advanced surgeries and all kinds of things going on. But the actual doctors, even though they do make money, I don't think people really give a fuck about them. And I think that's where things kind of fall apart. I think the doctor may not give a shit too much about the hospital he's in, the people that they all work together, but there's a lot of turnover. They probably don't know each other that well. I heard something the other day that there's like 250,000 people die to like preventable causes, where it was just like, I'm the doctor in the morning and you're the doctor at night, but I didn't relay something to you, and so the guy dies.
Yeah, or the doctor in the morning is still the doctor at night, and this dude's working or he or she is working a 30-hour shift, and they're sleep deprived. They can't diagnose patients correctly, and that's when huge mistakes were made.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, because I guess the doctor that, like, when someone's doing their residency and it's basically like a doctor boot camp for them. The doctor that like whole program was modeled after turned out to be like a huge cocaine addict.
Oh,
so
shit.
that's how he was getting by. These like.
Did they talk about that on Rogan?
They might have, but it was in that book that I finally finished it. But, yeah, it turns out he's like, well, if I can stay up for 3 days straight, so can you. And come to find out, he had a little bit of assistance from some drugs. So a lot of those misdiagnoses or just people screwing stuff up in surgery is because they're not letting these doctors sleep.
This guy here, so it was brought up on Rogan when they had the sleep guy on there. this person here said, I like natural stuff like fish oil, niacin, garlic, CoQ10. Yeah, I think that stuff can be really beneficial. We'll ask when we have our heart doctor on. We'll ask him and we'll try to figure out what the deal is. Somebody said, "What's your favorite Olympic lift?" Man, Olympic lifting is hard. Um, I don't know how to do either lift. I got to admit. Um, I used to do some cleans when I was like in high school because we did them for football. But my coach was always like, "You can clean or you can deadlift," and so I always did a deadlift. But I was made fun of one time because I don't know how to do a power clean in front of some CrossFitters, and then I did a clean with 365, and they were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I was like, "How much weight is this right here?" They're like, "I think it's 365." I was like, "I'll give that a try."
Yeah. Somebody was asking diet soda while on a diet.
I think that to start a diet, you have to be able to just start.
Mhm.
And I think that a diet soda or whatever snack or just anything to keep you on the diet, I think you kind of need that in the beginning.
Mm.
You can get more strict later on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're somebody that's been in fitness for a little while and you've been you should have the strength to kind of just go. It shouldn't be a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're new and you want to kind of do things with as many small changes as possible, with as little change as possible. It's like one change at a time. Like when I think back to that, like the bodybuilding stuff that I did, the cardio twice a day and stuff, it all started from 20 minutes of cardio 3 times a week.
Mm.
And then it changed into, 45 minutes of cardio every day. Then it turned into 90 minutes of cardio, towards the end, which was just
Yeah.
nutty.
But do you think that like allowing diet soda in the diet is just going to make you fall back into bad habits?
I think that you should work on getting rid of it.
Yeah.
I think you should definitely work on getting rid of it because it's a crutch and you just don't need it. I don't really, I guess, some people really enjoy the shit out of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some people really have a hard time with water, but I don't have any problem drinking water. So I don't know. It's never bothered. I've never been like a big soda person. If I could pick any drink to drink like all day, it would be like a chocolate shake.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy the flavor of that a lot.
Milkshakes are really good.
I do like orange juice a lot. But I don't know. I have protein shakes, quite a bit. But I've never been like a big diet soda person. But I just think whatever you need to get you going is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that once you get going, I think that you should work on, because you don't want to work on just the aesthetic side of it. You want to work on your overall health too. And it's just like a code that you're trying to live up to. It doesn't even necessarily have to have anything to do with actual health.
Mm-hmm.
But just because other people drink diet soda, most of the people that drink diet soda are fat, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, to me, I like the message of I'm not doing that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I see you doing it, I ain't doing it.
Mm-hmm. How about like Crystal Light?
Crystal Light, I'm it's kind of same thing with me. I don't mess with Crystal Light, but yeah, if someone's got to do it, then they got to do it. I do think that it is important to, watch out for your kids. I don't think a lot of these fruity drinks and then also Crystal Light, even though there's no sugar in it, I think it could just be overdone. So just, someone say crystal meth. I think just try to be rational about it. How much is too much? We talk about that with the phone.
Mm-hmm.
For our kids, an hour on the phone a day, 2 hours on the phone a day. Like, just what's the number? Like, is there a number? It doesn't matter what my number is versus what your number is.
Mm-hmm.
Different parents do things different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there should be a number. There should be some sort of guideline involved. It shouldn't just be like, hey, just go do whatever you want. You can kind of look at the phone as like your kid comes down, or your kid comes to eat and they grab some ice cream and then 20 minutes later they grab ice cream, and then 20 minutes later they grab ice cream. 20 minutes later, it's like there should be some sort of rational thought into, okay, what's this kid eating? Why did they rifle through, giant thing of ice cream?
Yeah.
Same thing with the phone. It's like we probably don't need to be on there 4 hours every day, right? Something like that.
Yeah. On the Facebook side, our man Elliot, don't know who he is,
What's up,
but
Elliot?
it seems like he'd be our man. He had a son 5 years ago, and he's kind of struggling getting back into the routine of training. So how about for people who have kids, as far as like, life takes them all over the place, especially with kids. People seem to never have time or whatever. You have 2 kids and you've never not had time for the gym. What are some tips you can give to some parents?
Hopefully you have a significant other that you can share some stuff with, and hopefully you can help each other to accomplish some goals. So, for me, my wife likes to swim. So there were points in my life where I had to make sure I was home with the kids while she was swimming. Now my kids are older, so I can get out of the house. It doesn't really matter. But I am there in the morning cooking for them while she's at swimming. If you have a significant other, you can make them aware of your goals and say, you know what? I mean, I'm going to be a lot more efficient as a dad. It'll be a lot easier for me to help with everything, and I'm going to be a lot happier if I can get some training in. And even if your significant other is even if they're for you exercising, even if they encourage it, you could still go to them and say, hey, I've really kind of have fallen off here, and I'd love to get back into a routine. I'm going to be a little bitch about it, but I need you to kind of, nudge me to go to the gym. I need you to motivate me to go to the gym. And, there's things like that you can do that could be really helpful. But, look at your schedule. And, again, I think being rational is always the way to go. How can you rationalize the situation? How can you turn the situation that seems chaotic, where it's go, go, go all the time? You got your work, you got your kids, you got your wife, you got all these different things going on. And at the end of the day, like, shit, I didn't go to the gym again today. Maybe you get off of work at like 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock quickly turns into 7 o'clock, and then you're hungry, and then it's like, I need to eat, and then now it's 9 o'clock. You're like, I need sleep because I got to work tomorrow, and it gets to be very stressful. It gets to be very frustrating. But you need to kind of pump the brakes. You need to be rational and talk to yourself and say, here's what I want to do. If you actually think about it, most people, everyone has different jobs, but most people have some days off somewhere. You work Monday through Friday or whatever the situation is. So if you have Saturday and Sunday off, that's 2 days a week that you can go train. And on Wednesday, in the middle of the week, if you need to wake up at 4 a.m. to go get training done, I say go ahead and wake up at 4 a.m. If you have to do it once or twice a week, wake up super early and get some training done. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. There's nothing better than waking up and doing stuff for yourself right away. And I love doing stuff for myself when everybody else is sleeping, because I don't have to worry about what's on their agenda or what they need or anything. They're out cold. They're not they're basically not part of my life for that moment, that hour or two that I get by myself. So I'd recommend, trying to wake up early, which could throw a monkey wrench in your plans for everything else. You can also try to train late. I don't like that because it really has messed up my sleep over the years, training too late. But again, tell other people around you, tell them your goals, make sure they're aware of it, and hopefully they'll help you. Having kids and being in the middle of my powerlifting career is like, right when all this stuff started. The slingshot started, as I was breaking world records and raising my kids, and it all happened simultaneously. So I didn't explode and die from it, and neither will you.
Nice. It's a pretty interesting question from Jeremy. He's 16 years old, and his parents don't want him taking the gym too serious. How the hell can we get his parents to go let him lift some heavy-ass weights?
Heavy-ass weight. How old did he say he is?
16.
He's 16. Some people's parents are some people's parents are pretty rigid. They're pretty stiff, and so each parent's can be a little different. But I think I think parents, they're always going to fear like the unknown. They always think you're going to get hurt.
Mm.
And they also don't think their kids are like advanced enough or smart enough to kind of handle what they're doing. Like even this morning, like I was just walking outside and like I watched Quinn on her bike and she crossed the street and stuff. And Quinn will like laugh at me or she'll laugh at Andy because she's like, "You don't need to watch me go on my bike every day." And we're like, we know, but we want to, because the street that she crosses is kind of busy, But she
Mhm.
knows she knows to look both ways. I mean, can't ride your bike without looking around and making sure you're not going to get hit, right?
Mhm.
And I think that we don't give our kids enough credit. Now, this kid, in my opinion, should go to his parents and have a conversation with them. I think a lot of times we get into like these shouting matches in the household, and somebody's frustrated because somebody else did this or whatever. Maybe in this kid's case, maybe he's lifting and not doing his homework
Mm.
or something like that.
Mhm.
And that could be problematic. You're gonna have to pick up the slack and get that shit done, so your parents aren't yelling at you about that. But you need to actually have a time where you actually talk to your parents, where it's like a meeting rather than like this moment of frustration. Where were you? You never told us when you were coming home, and it's 6:30 and school ends at 3:30, and
Mm.
where were you?
Mhm.
Oh, I was working out with my buddies. I didn't. Well, of course they're gonna be pissed, and they're gonna want it. They're gonna want to say stuff like, "Hey, don't get too attached to the gym because it's not good for you or whatever." And they might not know what they're talking about at all, but you need to sit down with them and say, "This is what I love to do. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I research a lot of this stuff. I'm learning more about it every day. I love doing this." And say, "Mom, just like you love to whatever, make brownies or whatever. Dad, just the way you like to whack off to Pornhub. This is what I love."
Just call them right out on everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This is what I love to do, and I want it to be like part of my life. I mean, if you have parents that are gonna, it would take a mature kid to do something like that. But if you have parents that are gonna shoot down that kind of thing, then that's just a shitty household to be in the first place. That'd
Mhm.
be a tough place to live. But I think that kids, when it comes to something that they feel strongly about, I think they do need to challenge their parents. I remember when I was a kid, I used to have friends who were like, "I can't watch Rambo because my mom said I." I'm like, "Fuck your mom. Give me a break." I was like, that rule would not last in my house. Me and my brothers would destroy my mom. We wouldn't let that shit wouldn't fly in our house.
Overruled, Mom.
Yeah, kind of stupid ass. You're gonna listen to your mom? Jesus Christ! A lot of times, moms are full of bad advice because they care about you so much. They don't want you to get hurt.
Mhm.
So like, "Oh, I don't want you to play football," and you've heard these stories over the years about these guys that now play in the NFL and make millions of dollars
Yeah, yeah.
about some of these guys, or not wanting them to do MMA or whatever.
Mhm.
They're gonna always be like overly cautious, and that's not even just moms, but it's just parents in general.
Yeah. I don't remember how old I was. I was out of high school, but I was still living at home, and I wanted my dad to like support me drifting, so motorsports, because he can work on anything like car related or whatever.
Mm.
And he just thought it was stupid, and he didn't want me doing it. And so I was like, "Dad, just come out with me to one event, and you can ride along with me in the car." And it just took one ride along, and then he was fully on board.
Oh,
It was
that's
sick. And then we just like some of my best memories are working in the garage with him.
cool.
So maybe this kid can, I don't know, take his dad to go work out one day, and he can see that like, oh, he does know what he's doing. He's not going to hurt himself.
Yeah,
And, he's not in here like, I don't know, doing steroids or something.
right.
Not
Right.
yet.
Right, and that might be something too, like where you ask the parents, say, "Okay, well, if you don't think I know much about it, then maybe we look into getting a coach or a trainer that can show me, and you guys can come and meet the person and make
Yeah.
sure I'm not with some weird creepo and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff." I mean, there's a lot of ways to handle things. I think communicating is a big deal. I'm getting a lot of hearts over here for some reason.
I think that's a good thing.
This guy says, "How does he get back in the gym? He feels so unmotivated." yeah, that's what this entire podcast has been about. So if you can go back and watch a lot of this, but we, basically talked about, how difficult things can be when you're at the bottom of that mountain and you don't know how to put that first foot forward. Even if you slid halfway down the mountain somewhere in your life, you still have to figure out a way to get back up that mountain, and you need to figure out a way to just put one foot in front of the other. Don't overlook, the things that are in front of you. Just get started. Just get moving. And again, something old or something new. Try to, talk to people around you. Talk to a friend. I mean, there's there's no shortage of people nowadays because you got so much access to the internet, that you can even, try to find someone in your area that lifts, even just through the internet, if you don't really know anybody that's into the same kind of lifting that you're into. But communicate with people, and maybe even go to like a powerlifting meet, go to a bodybuilding show, go to Olympic lifting contest, and
find an expo or something.
yeah,
It's
find
hard.
something. Find something to spark you. Find something to give you a little something. And if you're really unmotivated and you just want to get in shape, it's never a bad idea to look into finding a personal trainer or going into like a CrossFit gym. Or I know these ideas, they sound weird and corny sometimes, but
Fuck, what if it works?
yeah. What if it works, right? And that's what you always want to be looking at. And I can sit here and give you this speech about this Rocky speech or Braveheart speech rather, and or tell you to watch Rocky a bunch of times, getting you all fired up to hit the gym. But it's really not the motivation that's going to be the key factor. It's really going to be you kind of setting your heart on what you want to do and going and getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to kind of force yourself to do these things too. So the feeling might not feel great inside to go do it. But once you go and do it, that'll change everything. And then furthermore, being educated. Education is going to really be a driver. I can kind of I'm trying to make sure this is really an honest statement. I'm not going to say never, but it would be extremely rare for me to not want to work out. It would be extremely rare. Now, I might waver just the way anybody else might waver. At like 10 o'clock, I might be like, holy shit, man, I can't wait to get to the gym and train today. And then at 12:30, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock, I got to lift, But once I get going, I always love it. I always, I've had bad workouts and stuff like that. I've had frustrating workouts before. I've been in some spots here and there where, because I've been injured or something, I will get a little unmotivated from time to time. But it's almost like I'm either more motivated or just like less. It's like I don't usually get like completely unmotivated to go and get it done. But in my opinion, if you know a lot, you will just be in love with this shit because there's so much to do. There's so much to get done.
Mm-hmm.
The arm workout that I did yesterday that Andrew had to miss because he wasn't feeling well was amazing. I did. I used the bamboo bar for tricep stuff. We started out with like pin presses for triceps, and arms just got like pumped. Arms got swole and crazy. But it's all exercises that we really haven't done except for just the standing regular curl that we were doing in between some of our sets. But it was fun. And using the bamboo bar is a new challenge. Now you're probably thinking, oh, I don't have that at my gym. Don't use excuses. Find some different things to do. Remember, go back to that kind of thing that I've been talking about. Find something new, find something old, right? And try to use that as a form of motivation. Maybe you don't want to go to the gym. That's okay. Let that feeling sit there for a while. That's all right. It's not a huge deal. Let it ride out. Let it be there. I don't want to do this right now. Then don't do it. Figure out something else to do though that's productive. So that way, you're not getting out of shape.
Yeah. And I was feeling like crap, and I was so upset that I wasn't here to train yesterday, and that's a new feeling for me. Not like missing
But
out.
you sound good today though, so that's good. I mean, you it was like a day and a half where you're a little funky, right?
Yeah, and then I did what you said. I just took a long ass nap, and I do feel way better today. I was trying to like trick you into thinking that I felt better than I actually did yesterday.
And so this guy that I was commenting back and forth with, he said, I've definitely thought about, CrossFit. Well, stop thinking about it and get in there and do it. Just don't even think. Just go. Just go and do. I know you're going to sit in the parking lot and you'd be like, oh, they're not going to understand. I don't really want to do the full. Just go in there, give yourself to them. Say, look, I've been training for a while. I love training normally. Been unmotivated lately. I'm looking for something new and something different. And I'm not trying to win some trophy or whatever. I just want to be in better shape. So if someone can take me through some workouts and stuff, then I'd love to see what this place is all about.
Yeah, because CrossFitters are so negative, and they're not gonna welcome him with open arms and help him out and be super positive and pumped that he's there. So
and it's not based on competition either. That's what it's all about. It ends up being about competition, and that's actually something that we didn't even talk about on this podcast. But how motivating is it to be out there with everybody else? And then something I've harped on for a long time is, even without a gym full of a bunch of guys and girls that want to get stronger, you could always just use the internet too. Use YouTube. Look at different people. Check out what they're doing. There's a lot of motivational people that you can follow, but don't just follow motivational people. Find somebody that is a similar size to you. Find someone that looks similar, has a similar physique, similar build, that's lifting, that when you watch them lift, you're like, holy shit, man, I need to step my shit up. Like when we had Gavin here. You were watching him lift, and you're like, holy crap, he's really strong.
Yeah, just when I think I'm doing good, someone like that comes
Or
in.
Ryan Spencer.
Dude.
I mean, Ryan Spencer's an animal.
Yeah,
Ryan Spencer is so strong. It's kind of funny, actually, because some days I'm lifting with him, and every once in a while I'll be able to beat him on something here and there, and I'm like, oh, cool, I beat him. Then I'm like, I forgot he only weighs 105 pounds.
yeah.
But Ryan doesn't care. He doesn't even. I don't think that's ever a thought for him that he's a natural athlete and that he weighs 100 pounds less than I do. I don't think he ever crosses his mind.
I doubt it. That's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
No, it's ridiculous.
I see the size difference, but you're right. Yeah, there's.
Yeah, he's incredibly strong. It's humbling to work out with him, but I never feel like, for me, if I don't lift as much as him, it doesn't make me ever feel bad, because I just know how hungry he is to do this stuff. He's not an easy guy to beat. He's a tough. If you beat him, you've done something. So it was actually even back in the days when I was wearing powerlifting gear. Even though the weights that I was moving were creeping up there, he was still a motivating factor, because he and I would box squat together, and he was always moving around some huge ass weights. I'm always looking at him what the hell? How's he able to do all this stuff? But competition can really spark up your motivation a lot.
Cool. Aaron asks, when you cut a significant amount of weight, how do you get out of your own head with dropping strength levels as well?
Yeah, that's just because you're doing something different. So, I've mentioned this on this podcast before, but you're playing a game of Madden, and you're kicking ass in the beginning, and then all of a sudden you start getting your ass kicked, and then you tell your friend, you're like, well, I'm not even trying anymore. So that's kind of the same. It's kind of the same attitude you need to take towards your strength. You need to just pretend that you're not even trying anymore. If somebody asks you about it, be like, oh, dude, I'm not even trying. I was trying different stuff. I would never normally run a reverse on the 50-yard line, you idiot. So, of course, I'm not trying. And then you just throw out bad passes. And
that's such a kid move to do also.
Yeah, oh, it's great.
Just, I'm going to kick your butt. And I don't even care.
Dude, I stopped playing the third quarter. That's why you came back. And the guy's like, what? No, you didn't. But I quit a long time ago.
Tecmo Bowl has been heck of fun lately. I've been playing it.
That's awesome. You have it on Switch?
Yeah. It was really hard at first to just even get the hang of having two buttons to do everything.
How much does damn Switch cost? I gotta get
It's
one of
like,
these
I
things.
don't know. I'll check for you. It's not that much. But dude, it's been fun. Just because like the graphics are so like you remember like
Is
when
it the same exact game?
yeah, so like when the cartridges would get dirty and like
Yeah.
pixels would come up out of nowhere, it does that too.
That's great.
It's fucking sick. But yeah, I was playing the Broncos and I was killing them, and then they came back and they destroyed me.
So do they have every game?
Not every game, not yet.
They have Punch Out?
See, that's a problem. That's why it's failing, because they don't have Punch Out, they don't have Contra, and there's like a couple other games where it's like, well, how do you not have these games on here right now? So it's a bit of a mess, like the Nintendo Switch Online thing. That's where it all comes from. But I mean, they got Super Mario, they got the original Mario, like the
Does it sometimes not work because it's like online, or is it?
no, it all works all the time, pretty much. But yeah, totally sidetracked. But
That's amazing.
yeah,
I need to get me some of that.
I hope they do Super Tech Mobile, because that one was even better.
That one was pretty legit.
Yeah, because you can customize your plays too.
Yeah, it wasn't as yeah. When the other guy picked your play on the first one, you just get blitzed, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of like that, but this one there's really like there's nothing you can do. Like, okay, you're either gonna run on one play or you're gonna pass, and the odds of you picking out or guessing the other player's play is pretty easy.
All right, we're gonna answer just a few more questions before we jump on out of here. One guy here is asking about Kratom. He's asking about like what brand and all that stuff. The branded Kratom that I use is from a company called Urban Ice, and I'm working on putting out a product myself soon. But I'm working on testing it and doing some different things, kind of find out the dosage of Kratom, and I'm going to be doing a lot of testing on it beyond just that. But I want to check out the safety of it and all these different things. People have these different hypotheses about what it does and what it doesn't do and all this stuff. Somebody says, "What is Punch Out? We need to punch that guy out." I'm going to start something like the conjugate method for Westside Barbell, doing hypertrophic work for years. Any tips for recovery? Oh, this is sick. The guy just put up a Mike Tyson code, 007-373-6963. Go straight to Tyson.
That's sick, yeah.
That kind of stuff's the best.
Yeah.
One thing that I'll mention, and this is, Mike O'Hearn has talked about power bodybuilding, and it's an interesting term. A lot of power lifters have done bodybuilding in the past. Like a lot of old school power lifters used to utilize a lot of bodybuilding techniques. They used to do set after set after set after set for their legs on a quote unquote squat day. Over the years, you've seen powerlifters start to kind of change and shift, and they would exercise the movement and not exercise the muscle. And this is exercise. That's a really important thing to understand, that a certain amount of exercise needs to be done in order for you to get the fruits of your labor. You have to do a certain amount of exercise. So you can't just bench press to bring up your bench press. You have to look at the bench press in a more rational way. And you got to understand that if I'm going to build up the bench press, it's not really that effective of a training session to bench press and then to try to work on all the muscles that are involved in bench pressing afterwards. You'd be better off with a well-planned attack of, I'm going to bench press today, and the rest of the day, you can only work about 2 different muscle groups in a given workout, in my opinion, effectively. So for any of you doing West Side style stuff on your upper body day, which, as pointed out by Louis Simmons, it's called an upper body day because he wants you to pick 2 or 3, possibly. You can have a smaller muscle group in there. He wants you to pick a muscle group, and he wants you to thrash it, because Louis would implement, you either do the max effort method or you do the dynamic effort method. So you're either lifting very, very heavy or you're lifting very, very fast. Once that work is done, once that work is completed, it all moves into what is called the repetition effort the repetition method, which is simply bodybuilding. That's all it is. It's bodybuilding. And whether you decide to put tempo in there and go bodybuilding like superset and all that stuff, you can do all that within the confines of the Westside Barbell program. And that's what actually makes the Westside Barbell program so great. And that's why so many of their lifters over the years have been so dominant. And it's why so many of their lifters over the years have looked like they lifted, is because they implement. Now, things have changed, though. People don't do that as much. When Louis Simmons was coming up with these concepts, the powerlifting gear was coming on stronger and stronger, and people were lifting more and more. And so that what happened was the workouts would start to look much different. It wasn't like a leg day. It was more like lower body day, and a dynamic effort squat day would turn into this like 3-hour long thing of box squats. A max effort squat would turn into a 3-hour long session of someone using the safety squat bar. And then it would be like, okay, I'm going to do a GHR, reverse hyper, I'm out the door. That is not an effective way to build muscle. It's not an effective way to build up big squats, in my opinion. It's not an effective way to hang in there for a long period of time. And so what I would like to see people do is I'd like to see people say, on this particular day, I'm working my back and my hamstrings. On this particular day, even if it's a deadlift day, or on a deadlift day, just think about, I'm going to work a lot of the muscles that are in the back of my body. Back of my lower body in particular, glutes, hams, lower back, basically. And you can get to all of those in one session, but what you can't do is you can't do a bench press workout and then try to get your front delt, and then try to get your rear delt, and try to get your side delt, and try to get your triceps, try to get your biceps. That's not going to result in the gains that I think that you really need. And I think you'd be more effective to push a little bit more bodybuilding, inject, if you will, more bodybuilding into powerlifting, and I think it would be way more effective, because a lot of bodybuilders are very, very strong, and what I see lacking from a lot of powerlifters is just being more jacked, and so it's not that hard of a thing to understand, but I don't think you can go into the gym and just deadlift and bounce your way on out of there. The second part of his question was kind of about recovery. How do you recover from your workouts? Well, the way that you're going to recover from your workouts is to be nutritionally charged. Make sure you have proper nutrition. Make sure you have proper rest. So that's a story that no one ever wants to hear. But you need hydration. You need to get in proper amount of sleep. How much sleep do you need? I don't really know, but you need a lot, right? The recommended amount of hours is 8, but if you only get 5, why bother trying for 8? Why not just try for 6 or 7? Take a small step, and you can turn that into a bigger step at some other time. And the other thing for recovery is to eat. You got to eat. You got to eat well. You got to make sure you're eating good. What muscles are good to mix with chest day? Oh, yeah. So kind of following up that question, I guess I can answer this last one before we're on our way out the door here. What muscles are good to work on a chest day? Well, you're mainly going to be working your chest. Like for me, when I work a bigger muscle group, I only work one muscle. So on a squat day, let's say, I pretty much just attack the quads. I don't even really bother working the hamstrings much on that day. I might do some leg curls kind of at the end of the workout, but that's not a main focus of the day. When you're doing something like your back, there's not really time to do a lot of other exercises except for just training the shit out of your back. So you kind of just, if you pick one muscle group, you can maybe even get in a second muscle group. Like I'll do biceps, triceps together. I might do shoulders, and I'll get the front delt and the rear delt and all the different muscles of the shoulder. But if you're gonna blend two things together on your bench day, on your chest day, then I would say that, in my opinion, you'd be better off focusing in on just your chest and maybe even polishing off the workout with some tricep work. But I think that you would be better off having a separate day that's for your triceps. rather than just trying to smash. Just the day gets to be too long. And I do think you need, if you want to build up a big chest and you want to build up a big bench, I think you need in excess of 15 sets every single workout in order to make that hypertrophy happen and to make that strength gain that you really need. So anyway, I think we're out of here. Andrew, you got anything else to add?
That's it for me.
We're going to train some back.
Yeah, for the 12-week kind of
Mm-hmm.
not diet plan.
Yeah.
How are
Well,
people?
that's the start of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are people going to find out more information about it? Like, are we going to do an email blast or something like that?
It might be on my Instagram right now. I don't know if Jessica's put it up
Okay.
quite yet, but we are about 12 weeks out from Christmas right now. So we're going to be doing it in email format. It's going to be on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about it on YouTube. We're going to talk about it on Instagram. We're going to talk about it in every spot possible.
Cool.
I think we are going to even start a Facebook fan page for it or something, or
Facebook group.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook group for it.
Cool. Yeah, and I want to. So the people that do check in and like they'll talk on the chat box. I want updates from them too, so we can talk about it here live on the podcast.
Right, and I'll just be updating people. I'm going to trickle out small amounts of information because I don't want everybody to just all of a sudden think they're on some hardcore diet. It's not going to really work that way. Tomorrow, I hope tomorrow I'll release information on the foods that I want you guys to eat. And the first 3 or 4 weeks of this is going to be really slow because I don't want to, start out with a ton of changes right away.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take her nice and easy. And once I get you guys to a point where you start to kind of understand the shopping side of things, which is a big part of it. You start to understand the meal prep side of things, which is a huge part of it. Probably the biggest part of it is shopping and meal prep. That's probably two biggest things. Because if you're not shopping and you don't prep your meals, then you're kind of screwed. Unless you just use a meal prep company, then that eliminates a lot of that, which is nice. Anyway, strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.